Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming to our State of the Town meeting where we're going to talk about this seated council's first year. Now, obviously, some of the council has been here for longer than that, but this was my first year as mayor, and Jeffrey's triumphant return as a councilman, and Mike Dudick, who chose not to join us tonight. Hopefully he's watching on Facebook Live, which we're doing this evening, which I don't totally understand, but that's all right. We'll be taking questions from the Facebook Live crowd. We're also being taped up in the back corner by Summit County Television. This will be replayed on cable channel 10 and summitnews.com. And the newspaper's here and a bunch of lovely citizens. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to chat a little bit. Each of the council is going to talk a little bit about one aspect of some of the things we're doing, and then we're really going to open it up for questions because this is truly your meeting. It's we do this because I know that coming to a regular Tuesday meeting can be awfully boring, and this is a better way to get a bunch of information all at once. I know some of you sit in the crowd during those meetings, and you know, Hal's got Hal sits through them and toughs them out. So thank you all again for being here. I think it's great to see such great community support. So it was a big year for us. Obviously, it was my first year. We also had a change with town manager. Rick Holman's now the town manager, and Shannon is our assistant town manager, and that has brought a great deal of energy to what we do. It has made my year really, honestly, awesome. Working with Rick and Shannon has been a real joy, and working with this council has been great. So I did get to serve 8 years on council 4 years ago, and that was cool, but there's a lot of stuff going on, and I think we're on a good path to have some real success over the next couple of years. So to begin, we're going to have Wendy talk about Breck Forward, which is our parking and transportation initiatives that we have a video. All right, well, forget I just said that, and let's go to the short video. So there's a little list of some of the things we've been working on. So to fill you in on some more stuff, we'll start with Wendy and Our Breckenridge Parking and Transportation
I think
Initiatives.
Eric just did that because, in case you all brought tomatoes, this would be the time.
This is the time to use them
Right
on
on
her.
up here, but I'm gonna be a little interactive with this and be brief because I want to be able for us to have plenty of time to answer your specific questions on parking and transit. It's been a big topic, big initiative. I'm certain that you all have experienced changes out there. And I want to start by just being bold enough to ask, by show of hands, how many of you actually now like the paid parking better than not having paid parking? By show of hands. How many of you do not like it? Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's not perfect. We still have lots to work on. How many of you have downloaded that app? Yeah, ooh, that's good. If you haven't downloaded that app, it may get a few more of you to like it better because that certainly is the way to work with our paid parking and not have to get out and do the kiosks. And you know, the kiosks are not bad, but in our winter conditions, we recognize that, you know, there's challenges to the kiosks and it's not as easy to use the kiosk, but the app makes it pretty doable. Albeit that we still know that there's even things with the app that we wish for and will continue to work to get that to be better. How many of you have ridden the trolley? Okay, more of you need to ride the trolley up and down Main Street. The trolley has been highly successful, bringing the trolley back, even though we had bus service that went up and down Main Street. When it's a trolley, you don't have to ask anybody where that bus is going. You know it's going up and down Main Street. And so the trolley has been immensely successful. Certainly it's been used highly by our visitors, and I hope that as more and more of you all look for alternative means for transportation, that you continue to consider our free bus system, which is getting ever more frequent. Big changes on the purple route, yellow route more frequent. The brown route is a highly utilized route. We did some experimental bus transportation in the upper Warriors Mark area that was very successful. So, you know, everything that we seem to do to add more bus transportation to the town has increased our ridership, which is great news because the more people ride the bus, the less they need to drive their cars, the less they park their cars, and, you know, the better off for our town. There's still more work to be done. Now the council is working very much on the incremental parking that is needed in the core of town. We recognize that for all that has been done, we still need more incremental parking in the core of town for all users. Particularly, you know, we know our workforce has need to access the core of town. And we've looked at all kinds of different ways to do more and encourage more commuting, and we want to continue to do that. But we know that, you know, our town is one where everyone has need to access the core of town. And so we're working very hard on those solutions right now. Those solutions don't come as easy as maybe some of the others, but we're not shying away from any of that. We also know that there's great pressure on French Street. And, you know, when you put in paid parking, you have to end it somewhere. And right now, of course, you know, that's French Street. And so French Street has seen, you know, kind of a lot of congestion and some times where people park and block driveways and things like that, which is not good. And so we continue to work on that. And we think that some of the things that we're going to be doing to incrementalize parking in the core of town may help with French Street, but there's other solutions as well. So anyway, that's a little bit of a short, quick overview. I look forward to your questions tonight and certainly appreciate all of your support and patience through this time. It has been change for all of us. But this community is a great, resilient community, and you've endured that change extremely well, and so I can't thank you enough for that. So.
So while it seems like all we ever do up here is talk about parking and transportation, we do a ton more. That is just honestly a part of what we try to do to affect this community. So now Elizabeth's going to talk about the child care initiative.
That's right. So this council supports the Child Care Tuition Assistance Program, and what that is, it's for local working families that spend more than 15% of their gross income on child care in Breckenridge. So this supports families that live, work in the Upper Blue Basin. We currently, the average income of the recipient of child care assistance is $75,000. So that's their total household income, which doesn't go very far to support a family living in Breckenridge. And more than 40% of those families are considered HUD low income. These are our local working families that support many businesses here. In fact, in Breckenridge, 115 businesses, their employees are part of this child care tuition assistance program. So major businesses in town benefit from this, and it allows their employees to come to work and know that their children are in a quality, safe preschool. And as well, we've been able, last year, we added an online application. And so through that, we've been able to get a lot of data about who actually is applying in this program. And what we found, the average family that participates has lived in the Upper Blue Basin for at least 10 years. So these are long-term families. It's not necessarily new families that are coming. It's people that are established in Breckenridge and really want to have a future here and raise their families here. And so we've had some really good success with that. As well as with the online application, we've saved over 5,000 pieces of paper, and now everything's electronic. It's easy for families to go in and update their information if their income changes, if they have more children, if children go on to the school district, etc. We've really been able to get some good info from that, so that was a great decision that we made to support the online application program. As well, that town last year hired a full-time employee to manage that program and work with the centers to make sure that their standards are being kept up. We do have a child care committee. Aaron is our current council member rep on that, as well as many other community members from a diverse background. And so that committee does a lot of work in working with our centers. And a highlight over the past year, our committee worked with the county counselors and worked out that our local Breckenridge preschool employees could get a punch pass to go to the care clinic because benefits such as health insurance are not offered at any of our preschool centers. So instead, if we keep those teachers healthy, then they can be working to take care of our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. There are some seats down here if anybody doesn't feel like standing through this whole thing. Don't worry, we don't bite much. But if any of you want to walk down, this would be the time. So hand in hand with childcare is workforce housing. Aaron.
Housing, it's one of our more complicated issues. And
Can I interject just for a minute?
Yeah.
We have one comment on the Facebook Live that the volume's a little hard to hear, so maybe pull the mic just a little.
And these are all hooked up to the,
We're Velcroed in.
there you go. Now you have to hear me. All right, so housing. Well, it's really loud. So, back in 2013, we had about 2% of available housing. That means you're new to Breckenridge, you're working in Breck, you can find a place to live, 2%. Now it's just about 0 for the county. So new rentals, long-term rentals are near impossible to find. And so then in comparing 2013, the rentals that were being used were affordable to people who had 80% of the area median income. So that's okay. And then now, last year in 2016, that's up to 100% of area median income, which is quite a bit, especially if you're working at one of our restaurants or retail. It's hard to afford your rent. That is compounded with 10% growth in rent year over year. So, and people aren't getting raises 10% year over year. That would be fabulous, but that's just not happening. So what that equals to is we have about 600 total units needed for our workforce in Summit County. That's 270 units in rental properties and 230 for sale. So we have quite the need here, which I'm sure all of you are too well aware. So in 2016, we opened up Pinewood 2, which has 45 units. That's across from the rec center. And in 2017, this year, we're opening up Denison Commons, which has 30 units, and that's in a relationship with the Colorado Mountain College. And we also opened up Huron Landing, and that's in cooperation with the Summit County government, and that's 26 units, and that's across the street from 7-Eleven on County Road 450. And then coming up in 2017 and 2018, we're opening Denison 1, which won't be called Denison 1. I just forgot. Did we come up with a name, or are we still? We're still taking suggestions.
Close.
No, we're not. You missed the boats. You could have brought in your name, but so that is to be named. But in that complex, we'll have 70 units total, 52 for sale and 18 for rent. And all of these units are run the breadth between lower AMIs in the 60% range up to 120%. And that's the need. It's anywhere 120% of AMI and under. And then looking ahead, we have Block 11 coming up, and we're still looking for RFPs for that.
Thank you.
That's all I got.
All right. Recreation, Jeffrey.
All right, now the good news is, according to Live Strong magazine, Summit County is the healthiest county and the fittest county in America. I'm not kidding. That was just announced a couple of yeah.
And that's with
Now, obviously, you know, it's all about lifestyle, healthy lifestyle, exercise, yada yada. They obviously didn't take the measurements during ULA Fest, but we came through with that, and I think it's a tribute to the money that we spend on trails and emphasis on trails on the rec center. I'll talk a little bit about the rec center as well, but it's we crushed like Mississippi and Arkansas, but we were kind of just a little bit ahead of Pitkin County, Aspen area, and Summit County in Utah. So essentially, the takeaway is we're the fittest county in the country, even though we don't have Teslas or multi-wides. So it's a good thing. Now, a lot of the criteria, how they gauge what is the fittest county in the country, is availability of recreational options. Now, this is the 20th anniversary of our Open Space Commission. 0.5% of all our tax dollars goes to open space acquisition, maintaining open space, creating trails, buying land, and so there again, that's kind of a feel-good deal. Also, for our rec center, 260,000 visitors are come to our rec center every year, and this is a 25-year-old facility, and we're fixing it up. We're hemorrhaging money this year to our rec center. 17 million, is that what it is?
That is correct.
17 million. And now here's the deal. What we're going to do is we're going to cover the outdoor tennis courts, and that will allow us to repurpose the indoor tennis courts for MAC gyms and various other entities that really the rec center has been lacking. It's an amazing facility, very well run, but we need more space. We're repurposing the existing indoor tennis courts to expand cardio fitness, stretch areas, a turf gym, free weights, as well as when you exercise, you need restrooms. We're going to have better restrooms. We're going to construct a 17,500 square feet tennis facility covering the indoor courts, the outdoor courts. They're going to have their own locker room, their own front desk, and all that. And also we're establishing a 2,800-foot children's wing complete with an indoor year-round playground. Now, as far as the tennis court itself, we're going to be making it so that it's certainly for tennis primarily, but what we can do is also repurpose it for kind of a turf facility so that our high school teams can practice inside if there's not a tennis need, and certainly at the old indoor tennis courts that can facilitate that type of use as well. And so that's how we're going to do it. There'll be a 3-week closure on the rec center sometime during construction. We've already started construction, and the indoor tennis courts are closed right now. So there you have it. And again, it's a 25-year-old facility, and it's ready for a facelift. And the staff has done, I think, a wonderful job making it work with what the facility they have. So there you have it. And so while that 3 weeks we're closed, stay, kind of work out at home, because we want to maintain that #1 position. And I can tell you, I could see a lot of buff people in the crowd, and up here too.
Mainly.
I'm no slouch. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. You see why I like having him on council. So we are, fortunate to be able to do all these projects that we do because of the boon and sales tax dollars that we have. Years ago, one of the smart councils, one of the smart councils decided to do a deal with the county where the town would keep the majority of the sales tax and the county would keep the majority of the property tax, and that has worked out to Breckenridge's advantage. So Mark Burke's now going to talk about our financial health.
They didn't give me recreation and working out, I guess, huh? We're very fortunate. When I think about the problems that we talk about, the issues that we try to resolve, the parking and all those types of things, those are first world problems, and we're very, very fortunate in this community. And without getting into too deep of the numbers, but just this year, for those of you who don't know, we're a little over $537 million in net taxable sales. And to give you some relationship to that, in 2012, that's a 50% increase in 5 years. Now that's a double-edged sword, and it comes with a lot of costs, and that is, the traffic and all those types of things. But again, we're very, very fortunate. All the things you've heard so far, the town has been able to do, and I just put a couple of lists down, and think about the community center and the library, that, $10 million, the arts district, the roof at the outside ice rink, $17 million rec center, all of the things that you see, the reclamation of the Blue River, that was $4 million. All those things we've done, and we have not added debt. So we've been able to pay that and do these things for our community, and I think all of us benefit from that. And I think, that's the kind of thing we ought to think about when you see a roundabout going in and it's a pain in the neck getting down Park Avenue. It will get done and it will open, but we're very, very fortunate to be dealing with those types of issues rather than have a meeting tonight because we cut something and we were cutting the rec hours again or whatever. So I think we're very fortunate. I'm going to end really, I should just caution us that the first quarter of the year, this year, we are down for the first time, but it's against last year, this past year. So again, I just told you where we're at, but we're down about 1.9% for the first 3 months. So we're kind of keeping an eye on that to see if that's a trend that's going to continue, but we are aware of that, and so we're being cautious. I just wanted to publicly say, I see a lot of the staff here. The council, we spend a lot of time in making these decisions like the rec center, but really the people who bring it home are the staff every day, Rick's team and Shannon's team and, everybody that's in this room. I don't want to start mentioning names, but I just want to thank the staff because as Eric said at the beginning, we're very fortunate in this town. And I really mean that. I've worked in other communities, and we are very fortunate to have a dedicated staff that work very hard. And since I've been on council, this is starting my 8th year, I can tell you every year that I've been on council, our expenditures were under budget. So the staff really manages our money well. We don't even spend what we actually budget. So thank you to the staff.
Well, thank you, Mark. That's great. So, Mike Dudick couldn't make it tonight, so I'm going to talk about water for a moment. We are constructing a new water plant. We currently have one water plant, and and it is old. It's 40-some years old. It sits at the Goose Pasture Tarn up in the Blue River, up the Blue River area. And if anything ever happens to that plant, we're in huge trouble. So the council has undertaken a multi-year process to today, and we're about to embark on a $53 million water plant where we are going to actually debt the plant, but we will pay it back with financials from our water system, which is healthy, and it's important that we have clean water in this town. So I don't think anybody can really argue that that's a bad project to be taken on. So for the rest of 2017, what else we have? We have a bunch of stuff. We're planning parking structures and roundabouts and more trouble driving around during construction season next summer, but it's all for the greater good. Expansion of transportation. Hopefully we'll have the rec center done in a year, and this council is looking forward to more and greater projects and more workforce housing, more support for the child care, more support for our workforce community. So that's where we are. You should have picked up some cards, started writing some questions down. I've seen a bunch of people doing that. And if you could take those, and who on the staff is collecting cards?
There's a number of us around.
All right, so if you could just sort of pass them to the middle, and we'll start taking some questions.
Do we have any on Facebook? Facebook Live?
We do it like that on purpose. You can't, sorry. Well, no questions, time to go.
Yeah. Boy, that was quick.
Yeah, I'm sure she is. What time will you be home?
I know.
Eric.
Sure, yeah. Oh, all right. We noticed that you still haven't switched the light bulbs in this building. When are you planning on switching? That's a good question.
These are energy efficient, I think.
They're more energy efficient than they were, but we have another step to go. Yeah.
That was a good question, thank you. And then what is happening with the 10-mile room, and how is the asbestos going to be contained during construction? That is not our property, so we are unfortunately just an observer. You know, our staff will obviously be monitoring the situation. They have to, that's owned by Vail Resorts, so we're not exactly sure what their plan is yet. We've had, some talks. We have approached them about, before they just pop a building up, is there something we can jointly do to affect that end of town?
We have ideas.
We have ideas, but since it's not ours, we can't really do anything. And we are assuming that the asbestos will be handled correctly by them. And our team will be out there, I'm sure. So thank you. That was a great question.
Oh wait, but more about the light bulb?
Oh, yeah. What more?
Just to
Yeah, go ahead.
So,
Tell me.
so recently a group has come to us and has propositioned and said, hey, we want the town to be 100% renewable energy. And so currently we have a group that meets periodically. Jeffrey's on it. And I'm sorry, maybe you should be filming.
No, you can go.
But I went last time.
I shot my wad on recreation.
Okay. So, they are meeting and talking about the best way to move forward, because we do have some different options. A few years ago, the town got together this long laundry list of how we can improve our energy efficiency. And as we've been remodeling buildings, we have been putting in more energy efficient
I guess we have to pass this around.
uses. So, but as far as light bulbs and making sure that buildings will keep heat in and things like that. So anyway, the long answer to a short question is we're working on it, and it is on the list, and hopefully we'll be coming out with a more complex plan of how we can make the town at large more energy efficient. And stay tuned, and if you want to be part of the group, they meet once a month, and I'm sure they would love to hear your ideas.
All right. Well, thank you. Huh? Let's see. Could you give us an update on Sustainable Breck Program and renewable energy initiatives? Yes, Jeffrey can.
All right, we just had the meeting, and a lot of this is kind of a recap of what Erin just said. We just had the meeting, and we're pretty comfortable that we're making good progress on this. Some of it is partnering up with a potential solar array out of the county, because land is so expensive here in Breckenridge or Summit County. Doing something out of the county, which is very doable. We're looking at that. There again, it's dependent on the partnership with some of these producers. Also, XL, you have to kind of jump through hoops when it comes to XL and some of these things to make sure you're compliant with that. We're actually looking at down the road having a fleet electric, but that's kind of a pie in the sky. It's a doable thing, but it's something we're kind of waiting for technology to catch up. One of the things that we're resisting doing is just buying wind credits, because that's kind of like kissing your sister. I mean, that's it's just spending money, but it's not really doing something in the long term. That's something we might fill in the void if we're say our goal is 100% renewable. If we're at the 75 and we can buy wind credits for 25%, yeah, we could do that. We could buy wind credits for 100%, but that's not. We'd like to have concrete steps opposed to just kind of throwing money at the problem. We're looking at town buildings, how we can put solar arrays on that, and pretty much everything's on the table. We meet about once a month, and Mark Truckee is the contact person. Beth Groundwater is very involved in it, and we're moving forward. And I honestly think I just came from a meeting. I think it's doable. Is it, Truckee? Is it by 2025? Is that what we're hoping?
Hope so.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Or earlier. So yeah, we're moving towards that direction.
When you all leave the town hall too, there is a computer right at the front door if you want to see what we're saving just with the solar energy that we're using in our town buildings. It's up on the monitor. It's really kind of neat to look at and see what's happening in the town.
And I was fortunate enough to go to Aspen last week for the Colorado Compact of Communities. It's a climate change initiative that the mayor of Aspen is pushing forward. So I went for a 2-day work session and learned some stuff, and we're gonna be involved in the compact. So the town of Breck wants to do the right things, and we'll get to the renewable energy, but it can't just be about the municipal facilities. It has to be about the whole town. Just municipal buildings being 100% renewable. Honestly, if you ask me, that's just that's window dressing. This has to be a larger community-wide effort, so that's really what we're hoping to do. Sure, we could say we're going to go 100% renewable, buy a bunch of wind credits, and then forget the whole thing and just do it that way. But the council's chosen to put a task force together and seek the right path. So that's where we are, and I think we're with Jeffrey's guidance, we'll get it done. So, all right, when is bus service going to be expanded to the Highlands Golf Course? Want to take that one, ma'am?
Well, we're always,
And
we're,
golf course.
and
What's that?
golf course.
And golf course.
And
Yeah.
golf.
Oh, and golf course, I'm
And
sorry,
golf.
and golf course.
We are certainly looking at all opportunities to expand transit, and we're well aware that the Highlands has asked us, particularly around the golf course. I think it's maybe a farther away idea of actually routing buses through the Highlands neighborhood, but it's probably not so far-fetched to think that we could look at some service from the golf course area, so like a park and ride from that neighborhood, and certainly some golf course transportation. Again, with this kind of it started off as an experiment, but I think we're far beyond that now. In Upper Warriors Mark, it proved to be, it hit the numbers that we were hoping. So if we can start to generate that kind of commitment toward ridership, and I do mean that a commitment from the community, because what happens is if you commit and then it's sporadic, it just kills the opportunity to keep that constant. But we will continue to monitor the situation, and that one is on our radar screen.
And also, I think we'd like to get it out to Gold Run Nordic Center as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
Yeah.
Over there too.
Right. Yeah.
And just developing a transit system it's just not an overnight thing. You can say, well, we're going to put buses here, here, and here. The thing that we learned is that you need mechanics, you need space, you need buses. So there's a larger system that we are slowly building. You can't, well, you could, but you're not going to spend $200 million to develop a system and then hope people ride it. So we felt the way to do that was to slowly expand routes that we currently have begin to test routes like Upper Warriors Mark, and then slowly develop the infrastructure that we need. Also realizing that eventually we're going to want to at least examine going to electric buses, which will be a huge change from what we do. That means, charging stations and new buses. So transportation is that's a big deal for all of us sitting up here, especially me because I ride the bus a lot. So it's awesome. Our transportation system is awesome, but it's not 100% where it should be. So there are definitely things we talk about.
Just for the community's sake, one bus is $500,000. To add one route is $80,000 to add a route. So it's not, they're big decisions. We had actually talked about going to the electric buses sooner than later. They're about $700,000, but as Eric said, the infrastructure that you need, we just don't have yet. So that's probably another several $1 million.
Okay, so here's a good one. Well, they're all good ones. What are the future parking structure plans for Breckenridge? Parking by the ice rink, college, and constructing a gondola for both areas. I'll take this one. All right, I'm taking this one. So we have, first of all, a parking structure is a big deal. When you build a parking structure, it is here for most of our lives in Breckenridge. You're not going to build a structure this year and then decide to put it in the wrong place, so you're going to move it. So we have to be cognizant that dropping $50 million on a parking structure, we're going to put it in the right place. So we have had multiple discussions with our partners at Vail Resorts about property, none of which have come to fruition. So the town is now looking at potentially having structures on either or Sawmill parking lot behind Town Hall, or sort of behind Town Hall. F-lot Tiger Dredge, which would be some sort of underneath and above parking structure, and the ice rink. Those are properties that we own. They're properties that we control. We have retained the services of Walker, who is a company that builds parking structures, and that's what we do. So we are in a probably 4 to 6 week engineering phase to see which of those one or two or three of those lots are going to be the place that we build a structure.
We're talking about smaller ones too.
We're talking about smaller structures. We just can't build a 950 car structure on F-lot. It'll screw up that end of town to begin with, and then secondly, CDOT won't allow it because CDOT still owns the ingress and egress to the highway there. So we're looking at some modest gains in parking, and it obviously won't just be skier parking, it'll be local parking, it'll be employee parking, which is important to us, that we satisfy the employee need and the local need as well as the skier need.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, please.
We're targeting the fourth Tuesday in July, July 25th, council meeting to have the parking garage consultant come in and give the initial feasibility, pros and cons of those locations that Eric talked about. So that'll be the first public meeting we have to actually talk about the merits of each of those different locations.
But is this council's intention to make a decision and move forward?
Yeah, that's the first step to that.
Yeah, but again, you don't want to just say, yeah, we're going to just build a structure here and then, oh, that was a mistake, wasn't it? CDOT's not going to really let us have that many cars there, or whatever. And since none of us are really parking experts, we have to go to the consultants. And the last council hired Nelson Nygaard to do a full, global, really holistic parking analysis for the town of Breck. Their opinion was we don't need more parking, we needed better managed parking. So the first thing that the town did was paid parking. And that was the first step in this program, trying to influence behavior in the community. And I think as far as a behavior influencer, it definitely worked. We got employees to stop parking on Main Street and in the core. We need to solve where we put them now, and we understand that. But that was the first step. There was another question that sort of went along with this one that I want to touch real quick, and that was about the discussions with having a gondola from potentially the CMC into the town. we're still looking into that kind of stuff, but I will just say from first blush, the amount of money it costs to build a gondola and the amount of money it takes to run a gondola will probably make it prohibitive. So unless we really learn something that's really different than what we know today, I would say the chance of us building a gondola to move people through the community is pretty
About
slim.
$1,000 an hour to run it.
$1,000 an hour to run it, 10 to 20 to 30 million dollars, depending which length of road you want to take it. And then with all the easements, you can't run it over buildings, you can't, so.
But we did hire a group, SC group out of Frisco to study that gondola alignment, and they will bring that report to the council on June 27th, is what we're targeting. So at that meeting, they'll show what that potential alignment could look like coming from the north into town, and also give some, just some basic cost assumptions to not only build it, but to operate it. June 27th.
Very good. All right, build out town of Breck, where are we? 80 to 90%. Yeah, it's pretty good, that's a pretty good guess right there. I mean, we're probably 75 to 80% right now, the density that was given to the community in the 70s when nobody was here. So it's something that the council and planning commission deal with just about every time they have a meeting on, people have property rights, they have density that's been put on property, and it is our job to make the impacts from that density to build out manageable. That's what the whole parking and transportation task force and the parking and transportation discussions we have all the time is all about. Unfortunately, you can't just say right now, that's it. We're just gonna tell everybody, if you have density, tough, you lose it. That's just not, as wonderful as that sounded, 20 years ago even, it's just not something that we can do. So we have to handle and mitigate the impacts from that. So, but we're close. But you'll see build out someday, and then you'll see scrape down and rebuild. So, the cycle's just, I don't think the cycle will ever stop there, which is why we're building a new water plant. We know that at some point, the wheel keeps turning. More families move to the community. We need to make the schools bigger. We need to build more affordable housing. There are more restaurants. There's more retail. We need a new water plant. This thing does not stop. So I think it's our charge to try to mitigate it as best we can.
And I think also what we're doing is there is an impact of the growth. A lot of us were here with dirt streets. There is an impact in the growth, but there's also a financial benefit to the community for the growth. And what we try to do is take some of those funds and make the community more livable for the people that have to put up with the growth and that sometimes have to suffer through the impact of us being a world-class resort. Like Elizabeth talking about child care scholarships, open space, affordable, attainable housing, or however you want to phrase that. But I think we're very mindful of how it affects our residents, and we're also mindful of what we can do to lessen that impact and make this town as livable as possible, despite those 30 days when it's just bedlam. So.
Bedlam's a good word.
Nicely said.
All right, why does the town think it's a good idea to buy a Gold Rush lot? Anything it's not such a good idea.
Yeah.
We're not buying Gold Rush lot. I'm assuming this is you, lady. No, we are not. The town is not buying Gold Rush lot. We have talked with Vail Resorts about a number of different things. We haven't gotten anywhere, so we're not. We're going to try to build on lots that we currently own, and that's the truth. All right, what is the schedule for the remaining roundabouts on Park Avenue and Route 9? What's this?
Look at me.
Nobody. You want it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's Rick. Boss got it.
Yeah.
So we have money in the budget this year to look, our highest priority roundabouts, there's two. There's one on North Park, which is up around for the transit center. So North Park and French is obviously one of our top priorities. and South Park and South Main. Yeah, that's a mess down there. And that's a big priority, just to help keep the flow of traffic moving, the southbound traffic on Park and Avenue during the peak time. We put money in the budget this year to do the design on 2 roundabouts in 2017. It's anywhere from 250 to 300,000 per roundabout design. We were just talking about today that actually once we get this parking kind of feasibility that I talked about coming to the council at the end of July, then we're gonna make a decision. If the council will be able to have a very frank discussion on where are we focusing in on a structure, because that will time our priority on a roundabout, depending on whether, if we're on the South Park Avenue area, we're up closer to the North Park Avenue, that's gonna dictate where that next roundabout is. We also know, no matter what, at some point, we're gonna wanna build South Park and South Main, so we're probably gonna get that designed this year. And once we design, we have 3 years to go to construction on those, so we'll be looking at probably design on 2 locations. And we'll make that probably that decision latter part of this summer, and which spots they are.
You know, if I could just add too, Rick, it's important, you know, because you hear a lot of criticisms about roundabouts, and the way roundabouts really work effectively is if there's not a stoplight beyond a roundabout. And so that's why it's important that we do those areas that Rick talked about, because to do a roundabout on 4 o'clock or wherever we're doing them, and then have the traffic stopped at the next stoplight, kind of backs it up anyway. So the goal is to get rid of those, and so that traffic can continuously move, and it does help pedestrian. I think you're gonna see with the new roundabout when it's open, contrary to what people think, it's gonna be a lot safer. That's an accident waiting to happen right now on Park Avenue. And so that will be a great step in the right direction.
And we should point out, those roundabouts that we have now, we didn't design them, don't
Right.
blame us. That was CDOT. So.
We would like to fix those ones too. But like Rick said, these things are everything is integrated, right? So if we determine that a structure belongs to the ice rink, we're gonna need a roundabout at Boreas Pass and Highway 9, as well as roundabouts at the other 2 intersections as you come in down Park Avenue. So all of these things are gonna depend on where the final location of that structure is, and hopefully this will be a big summer for deciding where we're going. This is a good one. Eventually, do you see a larger grocery store to handle the tourist season?
I can do
If it
that.
was up to me. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Andy.
yes. Wouldn't we all like to have less congestion at City Market? The City Market property is owned by a private owner, a person in our community. And so there have been quite a few discussions to see if the town can be a part or a partner in helping to develop or redevelop the City Market area. It's very important to us, and we're going to continue to watch this community grow, and that's going to continue to be a choke point. And there is interest there. It's another one of those projects that doesn't just have an obvious answer, and it doesn't come easy. For example, how do you keep City Market in service and still build a new one that could be put on a different part of the property, perhaps? We've looked at a number of arrangements on that, and there's a few that may be doable. And City Market itself is certainly interested in expanding. So it continues to be a priority for the council. However, we cannot make that happen all on our own. It is only with a willing partnership of a private.
It's kind of like Gold Rush, we don't own it.
Yeah,
I mean, if
right.
we owned it,
Yeah.
we could do it tomorrow.
We do hope that there's going to be an interim step with City Market, and they will do sort of a 5 to 7 year expansion just in their current location. There's been some chatter about that, but like Wendy says, we don't own it, so we can only try to help them along through the planning process and whatnot to give them some incentive to do it, but it's early on. All right, how about I'm gonna save this one for last, there's a good one here. If we're spending so much on a water treatment plant, when are we going to ban single-use plastic water bottles? Jeffrey, Elizabeth, who wants this one? We've sort of talked around this one a little bit.
I'll take it. So there's some tough steps with that, and we've talked about it, and I am definitely open to talk about it again. Part of it is having water fountains available for everybody to use when it's cold outside and things freeze, and then there's ice, and then there's ice, on the sidewalk, wherever you can get the water. And so it's tough to make water so available to our guests in the winter, first of all. Second of all, for one, I believe we all still are watching how the reusable bag program is going. I think that educating our guests has been a challenge, and I think that we will need to do that a lot better if we make that move. I mean, I think it's definitely on our radar. We're looking for options and strategies in order to really educate our guests, but otherwise we don't want to alienate our guests either by saying you can't drink water in this high alpine environment where you really need it when you're hiking and biking and things like that. Now, obviously, us locals, we have a strategy for that. We all carry our water bottles everywhere. We drink out of cups, not bottles. We have some of the best water in the country and maybe the world. It's wonderful, just right out of the tap. It's amazing. So if there's a solution out there to really make that movement painless and easy for our guests and easy for our community members, I'm sure we'd love to hear it. But it's a challenge, particularly with how the bags have gone.
Thanks, Aaron. No, I think we're all open to talking about it again, though.
Yeah, for sure.
What is the status of a recycling issue?
There's a meeting tomorrow for here, I believe, from 3 to 5, where they're kind of talking about pay-as-you-throw, the possibilities, how to implement it. Part of the reason our recycling in Summit County is, was it 14% for the regular?
No, less than that. It's-
And then
yeah.
with compostables, it's up to 21, and we're like way below the rest of the state and like way below the country.
The state's
Arkansas
below.
and whoever else you
In
called out
Mississippi,
earlier.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, they're working on that. There's a meeting tomorrow from 3 to 5, right? I think it's here somewhere. Because so anyway.
James is saying yes.
Yes, and we're looking at that, and in Summit HC3 would be the one that would bring a proposal to the town to see how it could happen, how it could be implemented, and pretty much everything is I've heard from a straw poll here on the board that I think we're really receptive to it. It's just a matter of getting it together, getting it to work. And the challenge is like second homes and rental properties. How do you educate these people that come to the town that you have, that they should recycle, and that they'll have to pay more to throw trash away, less to recycle. It's like when you see him in City Market with that 3-2 beer, you just want to shake them. You can't get a buzz off of that. Go to the liquor store, but you have to kind of educate them slowly. So I hope that helped.
I think Aaron made a great point, and I think we should just keep that in mind whenever we talk about all these types of issues, the water bottles and recycling. And it would be an easy decision if it were just those of us who live here full-time, but every decision we make, we have to remember that when we collect $500 million in net taxable sales, it's from our guests too. And so everything we decide is going to impact our guests. And we have to make sure we manage that properly. And it's very, very difficult when you think about the big complexes like Beaver Run Resort and Main Street Station. One decision that we make, they're going to have to redo their whole process and put recycling where, we're not sure. But we're all on board. It's just a matter of making sure we do it in the best possible way so that our guests can do it. Otherwise, if we just say we're doing it, but they don't, then we're just kidding ourselves too.
Yeah, I think what's wonderful about these questions so far is that it's really reaffirming what we've been talking about, and that we are on the right track, that recycling is important, that you are thinking about the reusable water bottles and our energy efficiency. And yeah, I think it's wonderful.
All right. So, what are you planning to do to alleviate the congestion and parking on French Street? We've heard suggestions, but what are you thinking will most likely be done? I think we will have a combined approach that limits the amount of employee passes that we sell for that area, plus a potential change in how many hours we allow non-residents / employees to park there. But the task force will meet again and hammer out the definite plan
On June 13th.
on June 13th. So, we know it's been a pain. We understand. We sympathize. And that was the part that we didn't, you implement paid parking and you know that people are going to be annoyed about having to pay for parking. You don't know what the other implication is about pushing the employees who are now not parking on Main Street are going to park on French or park on High, and they're going to impact other parts of the community. So those are definitely things that we want to fix. There is another question on here from Facebook Live. How is employee parking and will there be more? And that goes to the question of what we're doing with our structures. Every structure that we talk about will have some component of employee parking in it. We feel it's important to have employees in the core, where for people that work at night, it is safe to get to your car. We can't always rely on transit to get everybody, especially people that work late at night, to their cars. So every time we talk about a structure, we talk about employees. And if it's a structure at the ice rink, it'll have a much larger employee component than, say, Tiger Dredge and F-Lot. But it's definitely something we talk about at length. So thank you, Facebook Live. All right, pedestrian crossings on park slow auto traffic. What can you do to keep traffic moving? That's an awesome one.
I'll take that one.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so we did have the traffic engineers do this really awesome model for us. It basically showed what happens when we have pedestrians crossing, cars, etc., and what that looks like. And you can clearly see in the modeling that, yes, one pedestrian crossing, or say two pedestrians crossing in ski boots, really, really backs the traffic up extensively. And so that is where the addition of some roundabouts will help. We did see a really neat proposal where the pedestrians are only allowed to cross at one time. So it's basically, I don't want to say a gate, but that's pretty much what it looked like in the model, that would open up, pedestrians could cross at once, and then it would stop, and then however many minutes worked best to keep the traffic flowing. And then again, it would open up and let pedestrians cross, because at 4 o'clock when pedestrians are crossing, 4 p.m., when pedestrians are crossing the village right there, that is really our biggest problem. And a lot of those pedestrians are going because they're getting picked up at the F-lot where there's a drop off there. And so that's where it would be really great if we could work something out with the ski area to move that skier drop off and pickup, so all those people aren't crossing the street. What we found out is in the entire state of Colorado, that crossing right there is the busiest highway crossing in the state. We were fascinated to learn that. And at times, I think they said we had up to 1,200 people crossing in an hour, and there's no other highway in the entire state of Colorado that comes even close to that.
First world problems, though, remember that.
It is a first world problem, but it's something we really need to address, because we know that we're already out there working. The police department does a good job of really trying to get those people to cross at once instead of a little bit at a time. But this is something we're definitely paying attention to as we move forward, and whether that talks about adding some medians in there so then pedestrians are forced to only cross at one area, that's something we might look at as well.
Chief now carries guns.
And just in case you're wondering why not put a bridge or an underpass over that area, it's because people don't use them. If they can't see, if it's hard for people to cross, they won't use it. So if they're thinking, oh, I can just dart across here real fast, then they won't climb stairs and go up and go over, and they won't go down and then over and then up. As fit as we are, people still like to just get to where they're going as fast as can be.
Like the employee parking issue, this is also something that we talk about every time we talk about where will the structure be, where will structures be, where will roundabouts be. That's, part of the solution to getting people across the highway is where you place the structure, where they need to go, if we can affect any change at FLOT. So it is something we talk about, like the employee parking problem, all the time. All right, zip cars, have they been successful? Shannon?
Here's your mic.
So we don't have final winter numbers back from Zipcar yet, but they were pretty happy with the first year program. The one car we thought was not getting used, which was out at Public Works, ended up with one of the highest rate of uses of all the cars they have in town. So they are gonna keep them. We'll have a few less for the summertime. They'll have bike racks and things like that on them. And we'll hopefully, in a short amount of time, have some final numbers back from them on just how successful it was.
And the beauty of a zip car is it costs us a couple of parking spaces, and that's it. That's a nice thing. Town made no investment of capital. They bring the cars, they do the cars, they monitor the cars. I got a zip card car, I took a zip card for a ride, it was pretty cool. I only did it once, because I don't have anywhere to go, because I live here, and this is the coolest place to be. So, why is overnight parking banned on FLOT?
Oh.
In the wintertime, it's for plowing.
We forgot.
And in the summertime, it's not. So,
So in the wintertime, we don't allow overnight parking in that lot because we do need to get in and plow it, and that lot starts to fill at 7 a.m. So we need those spaces open for daytime use as well. And in the summertime, it is allowed for 24-hour, actually FLOT, I think this year we changed it. In most of our lots, it is allowed for 24 hours. What we were finding in FLOT is that the lot was filling, so those of you who maybe try to go to the Riverwalk for a performance or try to go into town for dinner and go to the FLOT would find that it was full. And so a lot of folks were parking in there overnight for lodging and keeping their cars there. They'd move them before the 24 hours was over and then repark them. And so this year we've decided to try no overnight parking in that lot to avoid that issue and to have those spaces open for people who want to go in and visit town.
thanks, Shannon. I love this one. Any plans to relocate and change and enlarge the post office? Wouldn't that be awesome?
With Gold Rush and City Market.
Man, wouldn't that be fantastic? No, we can't. The federal government doesn't have enough money to run the post office as it is.
We've offered land though.
We have.
At one time.
We have offered land. When my father was mayor, my father flew to Washington, D.C. to meet with the Postmaster General to talk about it, and we still have what we have. So, Rick and I did meet with our local postmaster a couple of months ago and talked to him just about the facility and what they can do. And I will tell you that that is the one job in this town I do not want. I felt for that guy. That is a hard job, and I think he's done a fantastic job of turning his staff around. I think it's a lot better than it was 5 years ago. So. We got a postmaster in there that seems to care about the community, so I think that's as much as we're getting out of the federal government, though, unfortunately. Could the town please honor pollinators and stop spraying dandelions? I don't really know a whole lot about this, so Jeffrey, I'm sure you do.
Yes, we brought it up, I brought it up at the last meeting, actually.
At our meeting?
Yes, the last
The
council
bees,
meeting,
the
yeah.
bees, yeah.
I made a really heartfelt presentation, if you recall.
Was that in the bathroom?
Yeah, I think you were in the bathroom. Yeah, I've talked to James about it, and the deal is, yeah, I stopped doing my dandelions just because the bees need them. But yeah, James is looking at what we're using. There's some things that we need to spray, but I think there is pesticides out there that might be more. My biggest concern with bees, but I'm sure there's other concerns. James, are you still here? Or did he just run out the door?
He went quick.
How we coming on that?
We took your comments to heart, Jeffrey, and we're looking at the pesticides that we're using, and certainly want to protect the bees as well.
Yeah. So what James said is He's looking at the pesticides, the pesticides cocktails they're using. But the deal is, I mean, some of these noxious weeds, not invasive weeds. Invasive is, you know, man, it's like a dandelion, noxious weed. Lee Gervin could probably speak more educatingly of this, but it affects wildlife. It crowds out wildflowers. I mean, it's not as a just aesthetic issue as you might imagine. So there is, in Gold Run, at the Gold Run Cucumber Gulch, we actually hand weed, just because that's such a sensitive area. But some of the other areas along our right-of-ways, then we do spray. But we are cognizant of the repercussions of what that causes, and we're looking at it. But it's like making sausage; it's never pretty. You know, you got to figure out how to kill the bad stuff without killing the bees. You know, they're an endangered species.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
That was very passionate.
Very passionate, yeah.
Very passionate. Yeah. When will there be walking lights on Riverwalk from Eflot to town? I think so. Part of our whole parking and transportation and roundabouts and structures and buses is walkability, and that's a phase that we're in right now. We've improved lighting from town to the Beaver Run area. We've improved the lights back through this part of town. We are, with the completion of the roundabout now at the bottom of 4 o'clock, we will be doing a whole heated sidewalk and lighting package down, so from sort of the 4 o'clock area down in through the Riverwalk, and then I would assume the next will be more towards Eflot and through town. The Nelson Nygaard study had this fascinating picture of town from space, probably not from space, but from somewhere, and it showed this glowing town with this just black hole around it of dark. It was really a cool picture, and it sort of shows that while we've done a marvelous job of lighting the middle of town, it's hard if you want to walk into town and say you're not from here, that there's just no contiguous lights from your bed base into the community. So that's definitely something we're working on now, and the Eflot to town piece will be coming.
That's in the current budget, I believe.
Yeah,
It is
and, well,
in the budget.
and it's also, the Riverwalk lighting package will come more toward the fall, because
Right.
we're gonna pause that construction that's going on with the 4 o'clock roundabout. We were gonna, at first, continue that and do the sidewalk and the lighting package, and then realize that would be interfering with a lot of our summer activities, including the performances in the Riverwalk. So we're delaying that to fall, and hopefully we have a
But it
nice,
is
long,
budgeted
gentle
for, yeah.
fall.
Some
And
of the
then
lights
finish that.
in the Eflot we have changed. The ones on the far eastern edge closest to the river, those are brighter bulbs that we have already changed out.
Yeah.
So there are, and you'll see when you go by there, I mean, they're much, much brighter.
Major difference if you go by and look at the lighting, the new lights that went in, and they're a lot of money, and they take, I think, 6 weeks to get in.
When are we going to regulate and redesign Christmas lighting? I don't know.
We did do
We
some
sort of-
slight regulations.
We
Right.
have
Well,
some,
and
yes, so we sort of
more
have regulation,
Christmas
but
decoration, regulation, not to be Grinch-like, but I think it's a great topic that we should
Yeah.
talk about, because I think it's time again. What Elizabeth and I are referring to is that, was it last year? We talked about how maybe wreaths in, not to be a Grinch, but wreaths in April might not be the best idea, especially when we're also promoting spring skiing and spring this and that, and it looks like Christmas, which Christmas is nice at Christmas, but so we did do some things and with signage, but yeah, I think it's worth revisiting the lights in particular.
Good question.
I'd be really interested, whoever posed that question, who got an email to us, because
Yeah.
it's something I think that we do have a strong interest in, and what your feelings are, whether that's aesthetically, if you want it to change, if you want that to be done by the end of the ski season, or if you want it to be really done closer to Christmas time, especially as we're improving our lighting throughout town. Maybe it's not as necessary as it used to be.
So I have the last question here, unless anybody else wants to
Well,
fill
there's
out a
this,
card real
we
quick.
haven't addressed this one, this email,
Which one's that?
about, the dog
yeah.
poop.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Why don't you, here, let me, well, I'm not gonna read the whole thing. Let me paraphrase. This is a person who lives up 4 o'clock and is tired of people walking their dogs up there and letting them poop.
And not
And not picking it up.
Let me tell you.
Can we get the mic for Erin so that everyone can hear her
Everyone
can
presentation?
Talk about
Yeah.
dog poop. What's fascinating is that when Elizabeth, Mark, and I were running for council 3 years ago, dog poop was a huge issue, and it still is, and we're still trying to figure it out. So, I mean, I guess I would suggest we need to talk about it because this is the first. Today was the first.
We talked about
day that we got
DNA.
it.
Yeah,
There's some bulb that does the DNA.
Yes, we did.
They do.
But it is a balance. So what I didn't know when we were running is how time intensive it is to pick up trash and just to have a trash can out there. How many times people have to check it and what that does to our staffing. I think signs are a great idea. To Deanna, I think that we could definitely consider that and take a look at what that looks like. And so, yeah, but we still need to talk about it, and I understand that's frustrating. We don't currently have a fining, I don't believe we have a fining
Oh, yeah.
system, we do?
It is an issue, though. We ought to police
It is a
ourselves, and we ought to
huge
police
issue.
others if you see, because it is an issue, and it's really disgusting, quite frankly.
Right, and
And
so.
people pick it up and actually just leave it then on the walkways too, which is amazing to me.
But we handled this like we would handle, if you do have a complaint about where it's a problem area and that people are picking them after their dogs, we need you to let us know. We pass it on to the police department and try to address that.
But I'll say one thing, we did an exchange with the Pitkin County Open Space. And in Pitkin County, all their open space, all dogs have to be on a leash. And they have like 5 cops or something, like poop cops that go around and write people up. And actually, sometimes your fines, they accelerate and they can get up to like $500 for a dog off a leash. And personally, I don't have a dog, but I think I'd rather have responsible dog owners than to have a blanket rule that all dogs has to be on a leash. I think our open space is good for people and dogs, and I think mostly the dog owners are responsible. Through the trailheads, I'd like to have some more public awareness that, when you let your dog out of your car and before you go cross-country skiing, running, or biking, you just keep an eye on him or her and pick up after him, but,
Maybe some more poop bag dispensers throughout town?
yeah, you know what, there again, the poop bag dispensers work, except like Erin just said, then you have to empty them. We have them, we have them throughout town and certainly the high use areas. But I think I personally I think a lot of it, the responsibility has to fall on the owner to a certain degree. You can't be all things to all people. Maybe where are you going to stop as far as putting the dispensers out there? But yeah, I think that some more would be good. But having them everywhere, then I don't know. I think that's something you would have to talk about.
And for all of you here and people on Facebook and everybody watching, this is on 4 o'clock trail. So for Deanna's sake, please pick up after your dog. She's
a nice letter,
about
too.
to take photos, and you could get fined.
That would be awesome. Take photos.
And she's provided bags too, so I mean, she's gone above and
Yeah.
beyond.
All right, how is the relationship between the town of Breck and Vail Resorts? This is the one I was saving. It has appeared strained this winter. Where'd Mary Dillon go? Did he walk in?
Worked out.
Ah.
He left.
Well, obviously, it's been strained. We come at problems from 2 different angles. The folks that sit up here are public servants that are trying to do the right thing for the community. That's the only reason we do this. The only reason any of us sit up here is for the right thing for the community, which means everybody. That means locals, that means guests, tourists, Denver skiers. We try to solve the problems for all of us. Now, maybe we weigh some of those problems a little heavier on the side of the locals who live here and are here 365 days a year, but we do want to solve the problems for everyone. Vail Resorts is a publicly traded company that exists for different reasons than we do. We understand that. On a local level, I have a great relationship with John Bueller and Gary Shemanowitz, and I think our town staff does. And there are issues that we resolve behind the scenes that nobody ever talks about, that nobody ever writes letters to the Denver Post or sends postcards to everybody in the room 4 or 5 times during the winter to try to get their way. This council opted this winter to take a non-confrontational approach and just to continue to work through the problems that we felt we could work through. In particular, parking management, starting to work on roundabouts, starting to determine the location for this parking structure, and we did not rise to the challenge of arguing in the newspaper on a constant basis with some of the things that Vail Resort said that I felt were not true. And that's just how we decided to handle it. And I feel like going forth, if we get in that kind of situation again, we'll handle it exactly the same way. I just do not feel that this town council should engage at that level and pick a fight in the media. So that's where that is. The relationship right now is, depends what part of the relationship you're talking about. This is a marriage that has been going on for a long time. We have had terrible owners of this resort. Those of you in this room that have been here a long time have been here when Aspen owned us and when the Japanese owned us and when Ralston owned us. And there was good and bad with all those. I will say this about Vail Resorts. They've done a fantastic job at the ski area creating an experience that has made this a world-class resort. I think the ski experience here is so much better than when I moved to town. It was just peak 8 and peak 9, and it was sort of boring, really. It is a wonderful place to ski now. Where we have problems is where we interact sort of in that urban interface zone, where we talk about things like parking and infrastructure, and I am happy to go to battle every single day on those things, and don't ever feel that we are not up to the challenge of arguing with Vail Resorts. We are not going to be pushed around by them. We do not kowtow to them. We are here as your representatives to make sure that you get the best deal out of anything that we do with them. So that's the answer.
And they've come to the
Sometimes it's good,
table.
sometimes it's bad. Thank you. So that's it for the written questions. We still have about 15 minutes. If anybody else has a question, we'll take it. If not, we can just walk around the room. If you have a question you'd rather not ask in public, feel free. Sir?
Is satellite lot being a proposed lot for the parking structure?
Down by the airport?
Right.
It's something that we've talked about. It's still, we would still like it to be closer into town, so you don't have that issue with trying to, now you've driven 2 hours from Denver, you've been in traffic, now you're gonna park out there, now you're gonna get on another bus to go to a gondola, so, and it doesn't really solve our employee problems as much as some of the more internal lots do. So, Beth?
I just want to let everybody know on June 7th, in the Hopeful Discovery Room of the Breckenridge Grand Vacations Community Center, there will be a panel on energy solutions for Breckenridge businesses, talking about town fee waivers, rebates, different programs that are available to you, and also renewable energy technology. So I'd encourage all business owners and managers to come.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'd like to address, I was the one who asked the questions about the Christmas lights. There were years ago that we had a regulation on Christmas lights, and all the buildings looked similar. It was before LED lighting. Now LED is making some lights blue, some white. I think the town looks kind of junky for Christmas compared to, and I don't love to say this, Vail does a magnificent job. I used to try shot Warner nuts every time I came to Vail at Christmas and say, come over here and look at this place. So I think that we need to get something creative and something unique and something consistent through the town.
Thank you. We will look into that. Okay, so we're gonna, do I want to whip it up? Oh. So we're gonna hang around for about 10 more minutes. If you have a question that you didn't want to ask in public, we'll just sort of mill around here in the front. You can grab any of the council. I want to thank you all for coming tonight. I know it's tough coming out on a night when you probably work during the day, but thank you. This is important to us.
Thank you.
That's good government right there.